Hi, this is Ben Taylor, CEO of Legerdemain, and thanks for joining us here today at Vaccines 2020 Virtual Conference. Obviously, COVID-19 has become the number one priority for the vaccines industry, but it's also the number one priority for the drug industry and for every industry. This huge pandemic that we're all facing together is something that we've never tackled before, and as a result, we're all working together to try to optimize our experience. Obviously, you've heard today from a lot of people that are on the front lines, working in the labs, working through the clinical studies, and thinking about the commercialization. But what we're looking at here is a real sprint to the finish on the part of a lot of people and a compression of the normal timescales. So let's spend some time together focused on real-time ground truth. A lot of times drugs are not where they're supposed to be, and this is going to be a hotly contested area. There's going to be 6 billion people that want the vaccines, but the rollout has to be controlled. Supply assurance is key, as well as understanding where everything is going and who's been administered. So a little bit on Legerdemain. We've been working both on the clinical side of the pharmaceutical business as well as the commercial side. On the clinical side, we work together with the Clinical Supply Blockchain Working Group to build KitChain. And as a member of the Linux Foundation, the Hyperledger Project, GS1 Healthcare, and the Partnership for DSCSA Governance, we've been very active in introducing blockchain to the commercial supply chain, mostly as a result of the DSCSA rules that we'll talk about in a minute. First of all, though, we'd like to really focus and get everyone's attention on the issue of a common data model. What do we mean by this? Barcodes are a way of essentially putting a handle on a coffee cup, and it enables you to barcode every individual saleable unit, track it, know where it is. And so it's an incredible tool, and I'd encourage everybody on the vaccine side to be really committed to the barcode and it's valuable at the individual unit level. So that's not the barcode on the case, it's not the barcode on the pallet, it's not a lot. It's an individual barcode on every unit. I know it costs an extra 4 cents, but it's a really big deal, and it's going to enable you to bring your data, bring your company, and bring your healthcare outcomes into the 21st century. So what's happened here? The FDA, in their wisdom, picked the GS1 standard in a nice way. Everyone knows it's GS1, even though the law sort of said a recognized authority, but there's really one. You do a 2D machine barcode, and that's the individual unit. That's what you'd like to see. And under DSCSA, prescription drugs are required to have this. So we found that these barcodes really serve as a foundational building block for all kinds of applications, not just track and trace, but really tie things up in a beautiful bow so you can track them anywhere. This is what's encoded, the G10, the serial number, the expiration, the lot. But it enables these computers to really manage this data, push it around, really gather it, know if it's real, all these sorts of things. And the barcode has check bits so that you end up with knowing that you really got a clean read. You could try to type it in yourself, but it's not a good idea. It makes too many mistakes. You could use EDI. You can do a lot of things. But most of these things have an 8 to 15% error rate, whereas the 2D barcode has such an infinitesimally low rate that you can be pretty sure you're right every time. So let's talk about the clinical supply first. So we worked with Pfizer, IQVIA, UPS, Merck, UCLA Health, GSK, Thermo Fisher, Biogen, many of the superstars in the industries. What's happened? Clinical supplies have doubled over the last decade. Someone like UCLA has 700 clinical trials going on. They're bursting at the seams. And so in 2018, we started working with this incredible group, broad on industry participation, not just pharma, but everybody. And they scoped, they developed, and we worked together on a collaborative solution aimed at delivering a win for patients, and we really iced this data science. We also showed a lot of strength of the blockchain. That's important too. But the key thing is to get the foundational data science right. And that way, when Legerdemain works with Biogen, when we work with UCLA, when we work with anybody, we're pre-configured to win by having the data right. Then we just have to get the app right, we have to serve the users, and we have to make sure that everybody's privacy and security is managed. But by having the core data science, you can interoperate with any other solution. Now let's move to the commercial side. As a side note, it's very important to understand with these COVID vaccines that you're going to be ramping from the clinical to the commercial side super fast, and you've got to be ready. And so essentially what we're proposing is that you would want to try to do it all together. But let's set that aside for a minute and talk about what we've done on the commercial side. Enhanced supply chain assurance has been desperately needed for a long time. COVID-19 has made it a global priority, so I think that there's attention on this area and focus. With personalized medicine, this is going to be more important than ever. So we partnered with UCLA to answer an FDA request and launched BRUINchain to help develop this interoperable system that's going to track all the drugs through the U.S. supply chain by 2023. Our goal was to focus on the last mile, which is the hardest part. It's from that technician receiving the drug through the pharmacy. UCLA's got 500 people doing this, getting it to the cart and all the way to the practitioner. So the goal was to focus on this last mile, assess the UCLA colleagues to perform robust DSCSA checks and verification, flagging the double counts, surfacing suspect transactions, and enforcing ground truth. What do we mean by this? If you use a EDI feed or invoices, about 8 to 10% of the time they appear to be wrong. It's just bad data, lots of rework. If you scan the 2D barcode, the drug that you hold in your hand is the drug you've got. And you want to figure out if this is the right drug. And if something wrong with it, you want to escalate it to the right person. And then eventually, if it needs to be, something really bad is going on, you push it into what's called a 3911, where you're letting everybody, including the FDA, know that there's a problem here. Side benefits to UCLA is they get real-time inventory and quarantine at the refrigerator level. They know where this drug is, and it notifies their colleagues about availability and verification in real time. So let's go to a video here, very short video. We're going to talk about what UCLA did. And again, terrific team, Jess DeJesus, who's the Chief Pharmacy Officer at UCLA Health, Will Chain, who runs pharmacy procurement, and the amazing Dr. Perry Shea, who is the compassionate guy who treats these patients. And so you'll see that he played an integral role. We got this all the way to where a doctor is actually using the app and making it work. So let's go to the tape.
Selected by the FDA for the DSCSA pilot project program, UCLA Health and Legerdemain joined forces to create BRUINchain, a blockchain-based solution designed to track and trace changes in drug custody, perform mandated DSCSA checks, and interoperate with trading partners. BRUINchain was tested with real data in a real-world setting at one of the busiest hospitals in the United States. From the receiving bay to patient administration, caregivers scan the drug's unique 2D barcode using the BRUINchain mobile app. This makes it possible to track the drug through the pharmacy at the stockroom level with every transaction logged on the blockchain. During its journey, the drug passes a series of checks until it's administered to the patient. BRUINchain is also designed for exception handling. Under DSCSA and GS1 requirements, each barcode contains important information about the drug. When caregivers scan the barcode, this information is automatically extracted. New barcodes are routed to a trading partner for verification, and the drug is held back from being administered. At any time, the prescriber can view the progress of the drug through the pharmacy into the clinic. The trading partner can either verify the drug or indicate that there is a problem, such as a potential counterfeit. Trading partners can be provided with a real-time data stream on where their drug is and when that unit has been dispensed and even administered. If a drug is found to be suspect at any point, it is stickered and physically quarantined. If human review reveals a high risk of illegitimacy, BRUINchain provides all the data needed to notify the FDA and trading partners. If the drug is verified as authentic, the prescriber gets a green light and can now administer with confidence. Beneath the surface, BRUINchain passes messages and tracks changes in custody between 6 different roles. By combining blockchain with commercial off-the-shelf technology, BRUINchain makes it possible to track and verify drugs in a busy hospital or neighborhood pharmacy. With BRUINchain, doctors and pharmacists have a powerful new tool helping them in their mission to get the right drugs to the people who need them.
All right, so what did we see here? Very complicated, all singing, all dancing. But for the user, what they did was they just had this running on their iPhone. Real-world custody locations, advanced workflows, multiple roles, exception handling, updated every 50 milliseconds. And this is between UCLA and Amazon Web Services all the way across the country. All this stuff was summarized in a peer-reviewed journal called Blockchain in Healthcare Today. Very pleased to be able to report these findings. Let's talk about the top-line results. Barcode scanning was nearly 100% effective with commercial off-the-shelf technology. We used a standard iPhone, loaded it up, off to the races. These barcodes are already on the package. The drugs were tracked to the refrigerator level within the pharmacy. That's a really critical thing. It's new, it's different, it's a breakthrough. Basically, as you know, systems like Bitcoin are really just person-to-person systems. We had to reconfigure these important systems so they really were tracking individual pharmacy refrigerators. But we also know who put the medicine in the refrigerator. We tracked expiration dates, we verified the barcodes, we inspected for problems, and then we interoperated upstream back with Biogen in Switzerland and got their opinion as to whether this looked like a good barcode and a good product to them. We automatically can remove double counts and flag suspect transactions, and again notifying all the UCLA colleagues about availability and verification in real time. Spinraza, which was the drug we did, is a very complicated workflow for very fragile patients. I mean, these patients are going to die if they don't get their drug or if it's fake drug. So everybody was really engaged. It's an amazing group at UCLA, and it was fun to work with them. So what's happening? If you're from the vaccine world, what are you thinking about here? You're using blockchain to drive deep learning and notifications. Every transaction gets run through with the barcode. You're looking for expired drug. You're looking for a bad drug. If it's good, it goes into what we call the control plane, where it's all counted and looked at. Do we have the right stuff in the right place? Is this something that we were looking for? Is it the correct trend? And then you cluster your problems and report them back to executives who are focusing on risk management. Is there a shortage? Is it fake, suspect, illegitimate? Is there excess product somewhere that we can redirect somewhere else? And can we cluster these problems and create a root cause analysis of, hey, maybe they're being mishandled in one warehouse that's got a problem with their temperature control. The idea is private and escalating notifications driving multifaceted client perspective. So we got two big questions coming out of this, and we've circled back to answer those questions. First of all, what about my drug? What about all the drugs? So we did Spinraza. That was a great proof point. We've now rolled this out to over 200,000 drugs, and we can do your drug too. It's all on the iPhone. It'll also pick up any recalls. It'll give you an updated packaged insert, and it'll also address any expiration extensions. And that's our building block for really flagging suspect stuff and generating 3911s. That's master data management in a nutshell. On the transaction side, of course, is blockchain slow? What have I heard about it? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, we wanted to make sure and address that head on. We're now running week at a time, 50 million drug uploads. That's 100 transactions per second, which is more than the entire retail speed of the United States, and plenty enough for your vaccine. It would take, obviously, hypothetically, 3 of these servers to do every transaction, wholesale and retail. Okay, so let's talk about the challenge for COVID-19. Today's pharmacy supply chain is a patchwork of traditional databases. We know this. What does that mean? You've got your Death Star. I've got my Death Star. We fax, email back and forth and update it. Lots of opportunity for mistakes. Lots of opportunity for spoofing. What is spoofing? Spoofing is when I pretend to be somebody I'm not, and I say, hey, what about this one? And then if you'll verify it, or if I can convince you I verified a drug, then I can introduce it into the supply chain. COVID is going to make this trickier. Why is that? We're expecting in the short term non-traditional channels, meaning government involvement, military channels, things like that we're going to have to be very attentive to, and potentially more personalized data. So again, we know we're not as ready as we could be, but this is a way to be as ready as we should be. So what are we doing? What is it going to look like? This is the architecture for those of you that are into that. The idea is to get all of the relational databases at the manufacturer level ready to accept these questions, and an integrated org like the US military or Walmart or somebody like that would manage their own system, and then the bigger wholesalers would be working with the dispensers. So let's summarize. COVID-19 is straining the supply chain and health systems. Solution providers have got to leverage what's off the shelf, what's demonstrably working. In our case, with the pilot with UCLA, I think we were able to prove that. Legacy relational systems that you're familiar with are capable of a slow trace, But what blockchain allows is the fast trace and secure tracking down the supply chain. So again, a blockchain-based vaccine solution is capable of tracking vaccines, both clinical, commercial, and government settings, handling patient data with privacy-preserving modules. It's clearly the way to go. If you'd like to talk about this a little bit more, this is where you can reach us, and we look forward to engaging.